just want a one-hit count like that. I just want a one-hit count like that. I just want a one-hit count like that.
Welcome to a very special edition of the GatorMan Show. I'm usually out of the station by now, but we've got a big day coming up tomorrow. And believe it or not, I hate politics, the back and forth stuff that comes with it. The things I do love about politics is it's about responsibility, and we each have a responsibility to get out there and vote. If you got a complaint, you got to voice that complaint, and you've got to take a stand to make a difference. Today I saw something on Facebook that made me decide I really wanted to. I had lost interest, I'll be honest. But I saw something today that really got me fired up and got me interested again. So I reached out to Mr. Dan Gibson, who's running for mayor. I've had an open invite to everybody running for office to come on the show. A few folks have taken me up on that, and I appreciate you. But Dan didn't hesitate. He wanted to come talk to me today. And first of all, how you doing, Dan?
I'm doing great. Brandon, thank you.
Look, this is a pleasure. I really appreciate you. I'm not kidding, folks. This is very short notice. We talked about an hour ago.
That's right.
And you were like, how soon can we do this? So thank you for rushing over here to Faraday. Dan's running for mayor in Natchez, and whether you know it or not, and you need to know it, this is probably one of the most important elections we've had in decades.
Yes.
I saw something today. I don't want to go slinging mud or anything, but I want to make sure everybody knows about you. You posted something about the old Fidelity Armstrong tire plant.
Yes.
Location.
That's right.
I thought it might be a good place to start doing some training.
That's right.
Tell me.
Yeah, Brandon, we really believe that we've got to get jobs back in Natchez, and one of the problems is we don't have a trained workforce.
My dad signed on at Armstrong Tire.
Yeah.
Back in 1967. I believe.
Wow.
1968. Let's put it in a cultural context. There were still whites-only fountains and blacks-only fountains. My dad was there when the Wallace-Jackson bombing took place.
Wow.
And a lot of people don't really know what that was about. That was about a black man getting a foreman position over some white people.
Yeah.
And those white people decided they weren't going to stand for that, and made some really bad, hateful, evil decisions and blew him up, and blew his car up.
Terrible.
And this affected not just his family, but it affected our whole community and the nation. It changed the way my dad saw the world.
Yeah.
He told me with tears in his eyes about people he worked with every day having to go out and getting on their hands and knees and looking under their cars in the parking lot of the tire plant because they were scared that there might be a bomb under there. That's terrible.
Terrible.
It is. When you brought up the tire plant, that raised my antenna, and then you started talking about using it as a place to bring jobs back.
That's right, to do job training.
I'm like, what a great symbolic moment. And I'm sure there's a lot of the naysayers who think, it's just going to cost too much to rebuild or make that place viable again. But no, you can't put a price tag on a symbol.
That's right. And Brandon, we've already been working on ways to get grant funds in to clean that site up. It's one of the worst environmental hazards in the state of Mississippi, and it's a shame that the city of Natchez owns it. So we're working to get funds in to clean it up, and then also we're working to get bond funds from Jackson. And I've been working for years. I've been a lobbyist in Jackson, and I know a lot of the people who are the decision makers in the House, the Senate, and Speaker of the House, Lieutenant Governor. We've got to get those funds to Natchez, and we've got to build the region's largest job training center there. So that's what we're wanting to do.
Let's talk about some of your directions you want to go. Jobs first.
Oh, jobs. Man, it all boils down to opportunity. And because we don't have opportunity, because in Natchez right now, we are sitting on probably greater than a 40% poverty rate and record unemployment. Because of all that, now more than ever, we've got to have a mayor who will promote Natchez and who will use all the years of experience and contacts with government leaders, business leaders, to really put Natchez back on the map.
Well, you've been mayor before for another community.
Yeah, I was.
Let's talk about that for a minute.
Oh, goodness. Brandon, over 20 years ago, I was mayor of a little town called Crystal Springs.
I know Crystal Springs.
Just south of Jackson. My family ties are a lot in that area. I grew up coming to Natchez all my life. I always wanted to live in Natchez, but my family ties are really more in the Utica area, Crystal Springs area, and Jackson area. So when I was 30 years old, I got elected mayor. I was the youngest mayor
30
in the state of Mississippi at that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
30 years years old.
Yeah, I tell you, just had a great opportunity, and we did a lot to put people back to work there, and we had a good start.
What triggered that? What made you want to even get involved in politics? Because I know politics, it can be a very productive and positive thing.
Yes.
But it also comes with a heavy load.
Brandon, I know, but I've always loved helping people. It goes back to high school, college. I've just always loved helping people. Well, I was in the insurance business there. I'm an old insurance guy, and our mayor resigned in disgust, and we had a lot of problems in Crystal Springs, and I was asking people to run. It's like, well, we got to have a good mayor. Nobody wanted to run, so at the last minute, I decided, well, I'll run. All of a sudden, they crawled out of the woodwork, and I ended up with 7 opponents, but I ran, I got elected, and then the next year, having been in office and having done some things, I then got reelected without opposition.
Let's hang out on that for just a second. You got reelected without opposition.
I did, yes. I did.
That's huge.
Went from 7 opponents
to none
in about a year and a half's time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Now, because I know how quick people are to jump out and say, well, if he can do it, I can do it.
That's right. And we reached out to engage them and to get them involved. And in fact, some of the very ones who ran against me the first time were out there supporting and cheering me on the second time. What we did was we recruited businesses back to Crystal Springs, a medical clinic. It was really wonderful. We worked with a regional job training program there called Mississippi Job Corps Center, one of the largest job training centers in Mississippi. Lobbied for them in Washington when I was mayor. We got a metal fabrication plant in. We even got a McDonald's in. We recruited the National Guard to come back to Crystal Springs. They had left Crystal Springs and were drilling in Jackson. We sold them city-owned land, and I was there to cut the ribbon and help dedicate a multi-million-dollar new National Guard armory when we got them back into town. And all that time, Brandon, we dealt with a budget problem, and we got the city back on a good budget footing, and we balanced the budget every year. We raised salaries, we improved infrastructure, we actually bought new equipment, new police cars, even a new fire truck, and we did all of that without raising taxes. And when I left office, in fact, I was tapped to run for governor when I was 34, and I did it. And it opened the whole life now that I've had since. But we did all of that without raising taxes, and that's important to me. We actually had a budget surplus that last year in office.
I was a Boy Scout. And one of the things you first learn in Boy Scouts, if you go camping, wherever you are, when you leave, you make sure that location is in better shape than before you got there.
Amen. I was a scout leader to my son and all his buddies. He's 26
How did
now.
I know that?
But, oh, man, I still got my scout leader uniforms in my closet.
That's something important to think, and that's a great way to live life. Wherever you go, leave that place better than how you found it.
Amen.
And Natchez has suffered so much over the past few decades. I don't know where all the faults lie, and it's easy to point and choose and say it's this or this or this. I agree with you. I think a lot of it has to do with job availability.
Yes.
I think we put too much into tourism, which I love. Natchez is great. That's a great tourist place. But I grew up with the tire plant, the paper mill, John's Manville. They were industry, and your working class Joe, your average blue collar guy, was bringing in enough money to raise a family, have a new car, go on vacations,
and spend it locally and build an economy. And what we've had in these last few years, and the reason I wanted to jump in the race, well, let me just back up though. I didn't jump in at first. I really spent the better part of last year talking myself out of running because I love my life. But I looked around and I was seeing more and more for sale signs. I was seeing more and more businesses closed.
And you were investing in Natchez.
I've bought 4 properties in Natchez. I've built a bed and breakfast business in Natchez while still being a lobbyist in Jackson. But I've been watching the community, and what I've seen is we have absolutely been going down, 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 and people have been losing hope. And it just seems that people have been, if they can just get enough for their house, they're gone. And that has got to be reversed. And because if we continue with that kind of pattern, we won't have the Natchez that we love. So I decided, well, I've got all this experience. I've got the passion for it. I love our city. So why not? I'll run. And so my real passion now is to get Natchez back to work, put it back to work and make things happen again.
There's a few things I think about when I think about politics. Jobs.
Yes.
Education. Safety.
Yes. There you go.
So I want to get your opinion on those. We've talked about jobs.
Right.
Let's talk about education. How do you feel about where education is in Natchez?
Oh, wow. I tell you, we have some real challenges there, and everyone knows it. And everyone knows that for a community to succeed, you've got to have good schools. Now, it's a little frustrating that in Natchez, we have an education school board. We appoint 3 of those 6 members. The county supervisors appoint the others, and then we really don't have a lot of direct say. However, I think there are things that we as a city can do. First of all, we need to be very careful with the people we appoint to that school board. The other thing is,
do you think should we eliminate that?
Ultimately, yes. I think, in fact, legislation has been filed. If you are spending taxpayer dollars, you should be accountable to those taxpayers, and yes, you should be elected. That's just my feeling on it. And I believe also when you are elected, that makes you accountable. And if you're not doing a good job, the voters, they can vote you out of office.
Right.
They have a power over you, and it's called a vote, a ballot box. Now, the other thing, though, is we do need to celebrate some of the good things going on. I'm very excited about what's going on with the Natchez Early College. Won a national award this year, and that's really good. I'm also excited about some of the job training going on at the Fallon Center and some of the things that are already in place. And I'm also excited that we have dedicated individuals who are serving in the classroom. My frustration is that we have so much being spent at the administrative level that we have teachers who literally have to come out of their own paycheck just to buy supplies and materials for their students. I think that's a shame.
I've been very vocal about my distaste for what's going on with our school system. I'm an educator. That's what I went to school for. I taught high school in Cleveland, Mississippi.
Wow.
When Cleveland was going through they still had the segregated schools, one of the last of the state.
Yes.
East Side High.
Yes.
I taught my first class was at East Side High.
Wow.
Cleveland, Mississippi. And I know the importance of education.
Yes.
I'm a huge supporter of our teachers. My sister, she's a teacher.
Yes.
To me, teachers are the most underpaid, underappreciated.
They are.
Underfunded.
Brandon, I was once a school teacher.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I was. I taught in Port Gibson. I taught history, government, and I was a choir instructor many years ago at Chamberlain Hunt.
Wow.
There in Port Gibson. For many years, I have volunteered, taught, and spent a lot of time in the classroom. And my feeling is this, though, is that we have been trying to fix a problem with the same old approach now for years. It's time to think differently. Einstein had a theory. If you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, that's called insanity. It's time to do something new. And we have a lot of kids in our area who just frankly are losing interest in high school. They don't want to go to college.
Right.
And in fact, if you look at the statistics, Mississippi Public Policy Center put out a study a few months ago that less than 25% of college students actually graduate. And when they do, the starting salary for an average college graduate is measly, and a lot of them are trying to pay back student loans. Meanwhile, if you can identify in 9th grade a student who's more interested in working with their hands and get them into a trade, and from 9th grade to 12th grade, you're cultivating a trade in that person. This is the beautiful thing. Graduates of trade schools, their completion rate is almost 100%, and their job placement rate is, and look at an electrician. Look at
I say, if I only knew how to weld, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Hey, we got a lot in our community right now.
I'd be on a beach somewhere enjoying a vacation
really,
right now.
Look at a welder, an electrician. Look at someone who is a diesel mechanic. They're all making, on average, more than the average college graduate. So that's where we need to be putting our focus. That's, again, plan.
Why do you think we've gotten to the point where are we trying to protect the system at the cost of the student?
I think we may be. I think we've, it's hard to do things when you've been doing the one thing so long. Exactly. And people resist change. But if what we've been doing isn't working, we have no choice but to change. Back in the days when we were in the woods with the scouts, if we were going the wrong way, did we just keep on going way? No, you get further and further away from where you're going, and before you know it, you're lost. No, at some point you decide to look at a map, turn around, and try something different, right? That's what we need to do in Natchez. That's what we need to do in Mississippi, frankly.
I think you're off to a good start, Dan. I'm excited about
Thank you.
I saw what you did during the primaries.
Yes.
I've got to commend you on the positivity, on the race you ran,
Yes.
and the way you handled victory. Thank you for setting.
Thank you, Brandon.
No, seriously, thank you for setting an example of how we can bring integrity back to our leadership. And that's what we need right now. A little bit of willing to admit that things aren't as good as we want to pretend they are.
Right.
I think there's a lot of blinders on
Yes.
downtown Natchez.
Yes.
And I've got this little thing I call the tourism bubble.
Yeah.
I felt we had lost the tire plant. We had lost the paper mill. We had lost John's Manville. There was not anything going on in the port. We
Right.
put all our money in this tourism basket, and then COVID.
I know.
Boom.
Look what we learned, and you have been saying it the whole time, and proud for you, Brandon. We've got to diversify our economy, and yes, you mentioned the port. We are sitting on a gold mine opportunity there, and I don't think we're making the most of it. We have a rail system connects Natchez all the way to Brookhaven and the entire eastern seaboard. Just finished a $14 million renovation, upgrading every bridge from here to Brookhaven, and we haven't been talking about it. Do you know we're about to spend $7 million upgrading the runways at our airport, and nobody's been talking about it.
We have an airport?
Yeah, there you go. We've got an airport. It's time to talk about these things. Go from the best kept secret to the best told story and the best sold story.
Natchez was the richest port on the Mississippi River at one time.
And we can be again. I just said something. We can. I'm so tired of negativity. And in this election, and what you saw today was basically where we've had it up to here enough of negativity.
Well, let's talk about that. Since you're wanting to go there.
Well, we've run a positive campaign, and we've done everything possible to run a positive campaign.
Well, I told you earlier, I saw something today on Facebook that made me get in touch with you.
We called it a dirt alert. It was just
and it
time.
was dirty.
It was time to just put out a dirt alert.
So your opponent, I'm going to say it so you don't have to. Your opponent described my hometown, my community, the town that I work for daily, trying to promote and invite people to come to us. He described us as a one-hick town.
Yeah. Yeah.
Surely he could run a one-hick town.
Well,
we are a one-hick town. Let me say that again. One-hick town is what your opponent
and if people don't believe it, go to our Facebook page and you'll see the video.
I heard it 3 days ago.
Got a video of it.
I heard it 3 days ago, and I was like, surely that's taken out of context. Surely somebody running for public office who is a previous mayor would not describe his community and the people he cares about like that.
I know. It's horrible.
Shocking.
We've got to be selling Natchez and everything that's great about Natchez and positive about Natchez rather than tearing it down, calling it a one-hick town, and also using race and the diabolical politics of hate to get somewhere. If you need a job that bad, I feel sorry for you. And it's time for us to have a new standard in Natchez. I call it Natchez character. Doing the right thing. Treating others the way you would have them treat you. Isn't that a basic principle of life? I think it's called the golden rule.
It is.
We need to get back to that.
Natchez is such a neat, diverse little place. We're a weird little community, and I've always just taken pride.
And we get along. When you look around, we do get along. And we're a great community.
We've got the dirtiest history when it comes to hate and divisiveness. And the story of Natchez is not where we were. It's where we are today, and how far we've come since that.
So sad.
Natchez.
There are no words for how
Natchez
sad.
was built on the backs, the bloody backs of slavery.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. And to imagine that coming from that to where we are now, it is a story that needs to be told and celebrated.
And there's plenty to go. We're not there yet. There's a long way to go. The progress that we have made is worth mentioning. And that's the story of Natchez.
Brandon, this is what we've got to do. Celebrate the progress we've made and have hope that we're going to make more progress rather than, in the course of a mayor's race, use hate, racism, division. Do you know, I'll just say it. What really, really pushed me over the edge and had me make that post about dirty politics was when I found out from first-hand witnesses that my opponent was doing caravans through neighborhoods in Natchez this weekend, calling me a racist. And that is an offensive thing. It's been going on since January. They tried to label me a racist long ago, and the truth is there's nothing I want more, and my record shows it, than to see people work together. I'm a product of the public schools in Jackson. In fact, I am proud that all my life I've been in the fight for civil rights. When I was mayor of Crystal Springs, do you know that I appointed the first African American police chief of Crystal Springs? When I was a Mississippi State student body president, I paved the way so that a dear friend of mine who was on my cabinet could then, 2 years later, become the first African American student body president at Mississippi State. This all goes back to childhood and high school, and for anyone to be out there saying this stuff, it makes me angry.
Let's be careful, because I don't want you to get accused of name calling, which is something that happens when you start talking about race.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with being proud of the doors that you've helped open, or the things that happen during your personal life experiences are valid, and they're important, and they're a part of why you are good for this job.
Thank you, Brandon.
Well, it's important to know, because when you start talking about race and you start calling on your achievements, and you bring up race, your opponent is quick to use that against you.
That's right.
You've probably dealt with it.
We've dealt with it this whole time.
You've been dealing with it today, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have. Natchez is better than that. It deserves more.
Amen.
And we've been telling people an end to this despicable low politics, and let's take the high road. And the high road is opportunity. The high road is one Natchez working together. We do deserve more.
We do. And thank you for getting me excited about Natchez again.
Thank you, Brandon.
I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being something positive to look forward to.
Thank you. May God bless you. And don't forget to vote Tuesday, tomorrow. It's of vital importance.
All right, folks. Thanks. I've been hanging out with Mr. Dan Gibson, the next mayor of Natchez, Mississippi.